now.
Hello, we are Team 3 and this is our presentation for the People Express simulation. My name is Alex and I will be talking about the Don Burr case. In the case of Don Burr and People Express, Burr had visions of industry revolution. Burr wanted to create a low-fare airline with quality high enough to compete with the existing competition. Burr's strategy was one of rapid growth. The company grew to industry prominence within a short period of time. This rapid growth ultimately led to the company's demise. When running the People Express simulation for the Don Burr case, these were the inputs we used. The graph on the left depicts the changes in the length of the work week over the course of the company's life. During the first year, the work week was about average, with a slight increase in the middle of the year, followed by a slight decline by the end of the year. At the start of the second year, the graph shows a relatively steep increase in work week. This is due to the company's rapid growth and underinvestment in service capacity. Service capacity, in terms of experienced staff, failed to keep pace with the growth of flights and passengers. This led to a decline in service quality, and ultimately, the service reputation of the company was destroyed. The graph on the right shows employee retention. The blue line represents new hires and the green represents employee turnover. As you can see, employee turnover was on a steady rise, with the amount of new hires remaining relatively constant until year 4 or 5. Increasing turnover most likely resulted from increasing employee dissatisfaction due to an increased work week and other factors. The graph on the left shows the experience of employees. The y-axis represents the rookie fraction of new employees to experienced employees. During the first year, there was a sharp increase in new employees. This is due to company growth. At the end of year 1, there is a relatively sharp decrease in the rookie fraction. This is due to the company acquiring more experienced staff, therefore lowering the rookie fraction. The experience of employees stays relatively the same until years 4 and 5 when employee turnover skyrockets, previously shown on the employee retention graph. As the company begins to tank, experienced employees decide to leave. The graph on the right shows customer satisfaction. The y-axis represents fraction of customers satisfied, 1 being 100% satisfaction. During the first year, the company is doing well in keeping customer satisfaction high. About halfway through the second year, customer satisfaction starts on a rapid decline. This is due to the underinvestment in service capacity as mentioned before. Service capacity could not keep up with the rapid growth of the company, therefore resulting in lower service quality and ultimately lower customer satisfaction. This decline continues until the end of the third year, where there is a slight raise in customer satisfaction. This unfortunately does not continue and satisfaction starts declining again.
Hi, I'm Matthew Bessick, and I will be discussing how the company's financial situation changed throughout the Don Burr's case. The capacity grew rapidly throughout the first year. After that, it had a steady decline. The demand for the low-price airline also grew fast for around 2 years. After this initial growth, the demand for the airline dropped significantly. The share price hit a high point after the second year before the airline lost its edge with the competition. Cash flows were negative to begin with, which is not unusual for a startup company. They began to climb before the competition made adjustments in pricing around year 3. Revenue increased over the first 3 years before taking a hit. The net income also climbed to a positive point just before competing airlines adjusted their prices, leading to the demise of both revenue and net income for the airline in the Don Burr case.
Hello, my name is Trevor Payne. I'll be discussing our first strategy, which is the slow growth strategy. We grew slowly through the 5 years focused on airplanes, hiring, and customer service. We noticed that the more people we hired, the better customer service we had, and we can ease back on the marketing fraction, which freed up a lot of money for us to use elsewhere. The work week went up due to the decrease in fare, which resulted in the increase of demand and staff working longer hours. Compared to the new hires, employee retention increased steadily but did not exceed the amount of new hires. As the rate of new employees continues to grow from 100, 200 to 400 employees each quarter, the rookie fraction decreases, meaning that the employees are gaining experience and customers are more satisfied. The customer satisfaction is a steady growth until about year 2, quarter 3, where we had too many employees. The demand rose right as we started and then jumped again when the fare price decreased. The capacity or as the demand rose, the capacity for new customers decreased because People Express was impacted with customers already. If we bought more planes to match the demand, then the company would have been at a higher capacity. Revenue increased as the demand increased, even though the fares were lower. It drew a lot more customers to fly with People Express. In the beginning, the People Express cash flow was in the negatives, bringing the share price of stocks down. But once the market caught on to the increase of customers, then the prices rose along with almost to where they started. Using the slow growth strategy, the revenue and operating costs rose at similar rates. As the company got larger, so did revenues and the cost to run the business. Depreciation grew steadily because the assets were still so new. Net income decreased at the same time as when the cash flows were low, but increased towards the end of the 5 years when the company was becoming successful.
My name is Ken Caldwell, and I'll be discussing medium growth strategy. Medium growth strategy focused on keeping the initial fare low to attract customers to the market. We did this by maintaining a high level of employees, which boosted customer service score. Once People Express people fare went up, the demand declined. However, regained momentum due to a positive customer service score and increased capacity. Length of the work week declined to start out with because we hired more employees than necessary. However, as demand picked up, employees were required to work more hours. The hours per week decreased again when the fare increased and demand decreased, but eventually started to pick up again as demand began to grow. As the rookie factor declined at a fairly consistent rate, the customer satisfaction grew and steadied because of staff's level of experience, which had a positive impact on the customers. Revenue and operating costs rose in very similar ways due to customer service ratings and the prices of fare. Additionally, more planes were purchased, increasing the capacity after customer base was increased due to initially low fares. Depreciation was fairly low because the assets were still relatively new after only 5 years. New income sank with the initial low fares but rose once the higher fares were introduced.
Hi, my name is Kalen Kurdeman, and I'm going to talk to you about the rapid growth strategy. We entered the market with low fare to attract customers, while we also gradually increased our aircraft purchases along with hiring of staff. Approximately halfway through year 3, we achieved our target customer base and raised our prices according to the market rate. We continued our trend of purchasing aircraft and hiring staff to keep up with the demand of customers. The length of the work week consistently stayed under a 40-hour week because our company had overstaffed for the amount of aircraft we were operating. This kept our employee turnover relatively low because our employees were happy. The reason our employee turnover had increased slightly was because of the amount of employees we had hired to keep up with the demand. As you can see, our employees' experience has grown over time because of high retention of employees within our company. Our employees gained knowledge and experience and applied this to keep our customer satisfaction at a relatively steady rate. Our demand increased quickly up to the point where we increased our fares to the market rate when it then dropped. It increased but stayed below the level of the low fare we entered the market with. Our capacity constantly adjusted due to the amount of planes compared to the amount of customers we had at the time. As for revenue it grew constantly but then spiked right when we increased the fares for our service. It then dropped because we were no longer under the market rate.
Hello, my name is Victor Sinzik. I will be talking about share price and cash flow. Our share price dipped due to our revenues and cash flow declining in the beginning stages of our plan. Our stock price began to rise at a steady rate as soon as the revenues began to grow. For cash flow, our cash flow decreased at a constant pace due to the fact that we were reinvesting in the organization. As soon as we increased our people's fare in year 3, quarter 2, our cash flow increased a substantial amount and maintained growth at a constant rate. Our revenues started off low with little growth, and as soon as we raised our people's fare, our revenues grew at a substantial rate. Our net income was very similar to revenues. We noticed a major increase when we raised our people's fare. In conclusion, our aggressive growth strategy worked in our favor, and we hit a net income of $928,800,000. The amount of staff that we hired affected our service quality. In our rapid growth model, we experienced positive feedback when we kept our employee count high per aircraft. We increased our marketing spend initially to capture a customer base, which would eventually affect our overall total revenue and profit per year. For average fare, we started at a lower rate than our competitors, and as we began to build a customer loyalty, we increased our people's fare, which related to our positive growth and our total revenue and profit starting in the second year. We progressively increased our aircraft count throughout each year. We started purchasing at a rate of 1 and progressed to purchasing 14 planes per quarter by year 4, quarter 2. These changes would eventually affect our total operating costs. Other factors that affected our operating costs included staff, marketing spend, and all other costs affiliated to the organization plan. We are Group 3. Thank you for listening.